Hello, fellas and filettes. This is Jaffe. If you are listening to this, you are listening to the podcast version of this very stream. Welcome to Gaiden Games for Monday, the 7th of October. I know, it's March, you old knuckleheads. I was just checking. You're going to hear a little bit of dead air, and then you'll hear some music while I'm tweeting out that the show is live, and then after that, the show will begin. This will all be in the time code for the podcast, but wanted to let you know if you're listening, I appreciate it. We're going to start the show in just 2 seconds. Here we go. If that doesn't beat a pickled tickle, I don't know what will. I'm going to talk like this for the whole show, and I'll tell you why. Brian East already says, I love how even though you love Elden Ring, people think you hate it. I look, I'm not going to lie. I think it's kind of funny myself. I'm kind of enjoying the, I'm enjoying that, I don't know, it's not really drama, but I'm enjoying the rigmarole over that. It's good to see everybody. Welcome to Gaiden Games. As a reminder, what is it, the 7th of March. Welcome to the show. We have, God damn it, Jaffe. As a reminder, I'm in the live call-in show channel. If you want to call in on the Discord and talk live, that would be fantastic. I'm here for you. Let's talk about whatever's on your mind. In the meantime, welcome to the show. I hope your weekend was great. We are going to be talking a lot about game news today. I did play pretty much exclusively Elden Ring. I'm starting to get a little bit worried that when I go back to CYBERPUNK, which I am totally in love with as well, I will have forgotten everything and I'm going to have to start all over again, which I really kind of don't want to do. But I'm loving that game, but Elden Ring is monopolizing all my time. I'm staying up way too goddamn late. I was up, I was probably up till 4 last night playing Elden Ring. And I just, it's addictive as fuck, man. I dig it. We'll talk about that. Yeah, SM says NBA2k loot boxes, the subject of a class action lawsuit launched against Take-Two. Yeah, it's a $5 million lawsuit But I have not gotten into any of the details yet. So we'll probably save that for tomorrow's show. But yeah, somebody is suing them for those play mechanics. It's hard to know whether or not that is a valid lawsuit or one of the, I don't know. I mean, what are you suing somebody? It's just don't play the game, you fucking moron. I swear to God, people need to lose their shit more for filing lawsuits that are stupid if they end up losing. You got to do it at the end. And there is a legal mechanism that allows someone who gets sued for something that's bullshit to turn that. It's not just called a countersuit, but there's a specific name for it. I wanted to use it for the God of War lawsuit ages ago. And Sony, being the classy people they are, once the lawsuit was thrown out of court twice for having no validity, as far as I understood, that was the reason. I don't want to get legal here because that could get me in trouble. So that's what I think the reason was. I'm pretty sure that was the reason. In fact, I kind of know that was the reason. But anyway, I went to Sony and said, well, these guys cost us a shit ton of money, a shit ton of time. They dinged our reputation a little bit. Let's fucking initiate this mechanism to sue them back. And they're like, nah, that's not what we do. And I'm like, you fuckers. But they're classy, and I'm glad they took the high road, but still piss me off. But I'll dig into that lawsuit. Give you some updates on it tomorrow. Brian says this case has made that loot boxes are essentially in-game gambling, which is illegal in Europe. I mean, okay. I mean, if it's illegal, it's illegal. But then at that point, who's filing the lawsuit? Is it like the district attorney, or it doesn't? I don't know enough about it to speak to it. That's the goddamn truth. Zero Signal says, I'm feeling bad for the devs who dared to say one negative thing about Elden Ring. We're going to talk about them a little bit later in the show. Bender of Strings, you're absolutely right. He says, speaking of gambling, I took my kids to Chuck E. Cheese the other day. It's not an arcade anymore. It's a freaking kids casino. All of the redemption games there, they might have a little section, depending on your Chuck E. Cheese, of like retro arcade games, but part of it has to do with there really are not a lot of traditional arcade games anymore. There's the big ticket items like Play Mechanics makes, like the Halo shooter, like double gun riding in the Warthog, or the Jurassic Park one, or whatever. But most of them, the way they've stayed in business is they've all turned into redemption titles. In which case, I mean, some of them are pretty good, but you're right. The arcades are long dead. CR says, he's talking to John Weston. G says, I don't see what the problem is when it's up to parents to watch their kids regarding the loot boxes. I mean, that's kind of my take, but frankly, I don't think gambling should be illegal anyway. I mean, you can have alcohol, you can have weed. The idea of legislating morality, I think, is moronic and stupid and clearly doesn't work. You can't pay for sex, you can't pay for, what is this, fucking, Puritan times? Fuck you. I hate that shit. I fucking hate that shit. But anyway, whatever. I hope you guys are well. Let's talk about the video games if you would like to. Even if you wouldn't like to, fuck you. I do want to tell you quickly, I'm putting this in the chat. The LEETEST podcast is one of our very generous, kind sponsors. They have a family feud of video games going on right now. I will be on that podcast. The LEETEST is basically a show where they do trivia and all kinds of weird, wacky games about video games. And I'll be on the one that is the family feud. And these guys, I just put a link in the chat. These guys are looking to fill out their survey says. In Family Feud, when they say survey says a monkey, cha-ching, and all that shit. They're looking for you guys to be the people who say in the survey. So they're going to be asking questions like, what is the one thing you see in every video game? Name the first Super Smash Bros. Character that comes to mind. All that shit. And then when three of us are playing, we'll be going off this data. So if you're interested, going over to the LEETEST podcast, great podcast, give it a listen. And in the meantime, if you want to help them out, fill up the survey and help those kids out over there. I would appreciate it. Joseph, yes, check, says, hey man, I love you, brother. I don't know if he's saying, hey man, I love you, me, and he's calling me like a brother because he's choosing not to use any punctuation. Or is he saying, hey man, I love you, brother, like my brother who is in Alabama, is he like, hey man, I love your brother? I don't know what he's saying. You see? Punctuation is important. Oh, now he's filling it out. He's still not using punctuation, but he's saying he loves me like a brother. I appreciate that, buddy. Okay. Yes, Jacob Martin. Oh, that the family feud that pops up on the left of your screen. Yeah, that is an ad for the LEETEST. Check them out. They're good people. Okay. I would like to talk briefly about this conversation that took place at come on, what are with these fucking names? DITE2 says, I love your brother. I will let him know. Okay. So there was a conversation that took place after the DICE Awards last week between the creative director of Playground Games, Mike Brown, and just, it sounds like, here's how it was described in the game developer article. It just said during a post-ceremony chat at the 2022 DICE Awards. What that probably means is, I don't know where they held it this year, but in past years they've held it at the Red Rock Casino in Vegas, or right out off the strip, about maybe 20 miles off the strip. And it's an all-inclusive resort. It's got a movie theater, a food court, a bowling alley, tons of clubs, all this shit. And then gambling, of course, in rooms. So we would hold the DICE Awards there, and then the after party would always be at the bowling alley, Red Rock Lanes or something they called it. And so everybody would go there, and they would get drunk, and they would talk, and loose lip sync ships and all that bullshit. Well, that's kind of what this sounds like. I remember when we had won the 2005, we kind of swept the awards, and I'm sitting there with Zoe Flower, if you remember Zoe Flower, and this was actually up in a hotel suite. This might have been Phil Harrison's hotel suite, and everybody was there, and I was drunk as a goddamn skunk in June. I don't know, crazy drunk. And I don't know what I told that woman, but she was a journalist. All I know is I was sitting there talking to her, and I'm like, I need to be careful, but I couldn't. But anyway, this guy's at a post-ceremony chat. This is good sir Mike Brown. And here's what he says. He says, excuse me, he says, creative director Mike Brown told reporters it is, quote, very likely, end quote, future Forza Horizon games, and along with other Playground titles, will ship day one on Game Pass. He says it is very likely. There's two interesting things about this conversation. The first one is he goes into talking about when the Washington Post kind of chimes in and asks a question. He goes into about how they learned the difference between making a retail game and a Game Pass game. And I'll get you that first, but there's a more interesting part of this. But this is pretty interesting at a design level. Mike says, I think we learned really how to make a really good Game Pass game that speaks to the lifestyle of a Game Pass user. It is a different space, he says. Game Pass is different from walking into a shop and dropping $60 to $70 on a game. He says when studying users who had access to the full library of Game Pass, it was beneficial to remember players might dip out from playing only to return later. Now, I'm going to put this to the test because I've not played Forza in about 2 months, and I really loved it. And then I just got busy with other games, as you do. And I'm going to go back in this week sometime, and I want to see how easy it is to reacclimate to that world, which I enjoyed very, very much when I was playing it. But he says, so at Playground Games, he says, we build games that allow you to come back and drop in easily. And every time you drop back in, it's like, hey, welcome back. Here's another bunch of stuff that you can do. So it's kind of like putting breadcrumbs down to go, we recognize you've been gone for X months. You fall into this bucket of player types, in which case you get this re-onboarding version 2. Whereas if I haven't been back for a week, maybe it's a little less hand-holdy. I don't know. But what was really interesting to me about this comment is he said very likely. He told reporters it is very likely future Forza Horizon games will ship day one. Very likely. Phil Spencer has already made it clear that that's going to happen, that all of their first-party titles are shipping day one on Game Pass. The fact that now it's very likely, I don't know. Was that just a slip of the tongue in terms of maybe a bad way to express what he was trying to say? Did he not know what he could say, and that, of course, it would ship day one? I think that's hard to believe. Or are they starting to look at sales numbers and go, okay, maybe not everything should ship day one because it's not working as we'd planned? That's me reading into it. I don't know. I just thought that the very likely quote was a very strange way to word it. And it probably means absolutely nothing. But I bring it up to you just because it's a little, it's a strange piece of verbiage, especially if it's a post-ceremony chat where you're drinking a little, you don't necessarily have the PR people standing around, and you're just kind of flapping your goddamn gums. Who the fuck knows? Interesting. SM says it's 100% going day one. I don't know that, and you don't know that. I know that's what Phil Spencer said. Now? I don't know. I hope so. I love Game Pass. Okay. Speaking of the Microsoft folks, I want to talk briefly about Halo. This is not the big news story about Halo, but it leads into something that's concerning me. 3 months ago, Halo launches. The other day, Andrew Witz of the Connecticut Wits has departed 343 Industries. He says he was pretty instrumental. I mean, I loved Halo I loved all of Halo. I love the campaign and I love the multiplayer. The multiplayer, I think, is probably one of my favorite multiplayer shooters of all time. It is sublime. He was the lead of the multiplayer design team. He oversaw the multiplayer design team for all of Halo Infinite's game modes and systems. Not only did I love it, a lot of people loved it. Even last week at the DICE Awards, it was given Online Game of the Year. Okay, and this guy's taken off. Well, that's probably a pretty big loss. But you know what it makes me think about is, as much as I applaud Microsoft for Game Pass and getting out some fucking awesome games the end of last year, again, the management at that company when it comes to product development continues to baffle me. You have this amazing game and people are dropping like flies from what I understand because you guys aren't putting out new content. And I have to assume that's why I bring up management. This goes back to management. I'm like, what are you doing? You didn't have this shit in the bag? You didn't have how long does it take to make some fucking levels? Even if it's a remix. Just fucking remix the Bazaar level, which is one of the best levels, and give us just a cup, throw us some fucking bones for, a little bit while you're working on the big reveals. But how can a company that has this much invested in this game not have dropped a single goddamn cockadoodie new level or series of levels or maps? It's absolutely baffling. And they want to. They're not idiots. Like, well, you think we need to put out levels for the game? What are you talking about? I'm going to go down here and go fishing. Of course, that's their intent, which again goes back to management. I wonder what's going on over there that they cannot get their shit together. 343 says Brian East is focused on monetization. Absolutely, they can be focused on monetization. That's as they should. That's how they make their money with this game. But one would assume in being focused on monetization, you need people playing your game in order to monetize it. And you need people to stick around. I mean, it is brilliant. This is the equivalent of like going out with, you finally got a date with a great like looking lady and she's like model quality. You're like, I've never dated a girl that looks this pretty before. And then after about 3 or 4 or 5 weeks, you're like, okay, but there's nothing else there. That's kind of sexist. If you're a lesbian, it applies. And if you're a man, pretend it's, and who's a gay man, pretend it's a hot dude or something. That's just what comes to mind. Whatever. But it is what comes to mind because it's weird. It's like it's got this amazing shine. And maybe here's what I'll say. No, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do the analogy again. Take two, they used to say back in the day. They still probably say that. Why would they not say that? It's like we skip over take one and go right to take three. I didn't take my ADD meds today, by the way, which means I'm both tired and a little loopy. So just so you know, I forgot to take them. I put them in the wrong place on the shelf. It doesn't matter. The point is, the better analogy is you date this beautiful model that you've had your eye on for a long time. She delivers exactly what you thought it would be, and she's amazing. And 5 or 6 weeks later, you go, but all we ever do is have amazing sex and talk about Lord of the Rings. And that was great for 5 weeks, but there's nothing else there. There's nothing else there. That's a better analogy. Thank you. Thank you. I don't know what's going on with the Halo. It's bizarre. Isn't it bizarre? You want to be a fly on the wall in that studio. How hard is it to put out some fucking levels, man? Just put out Bazaar, change the time of day, cut a couple of holes in different places that, you got all the assets, fucking put it out. You're losing interest. People are turning off the goddamn TV set, playing something else. Come on now. A model liking Lord of the Rings, says Brian East. Well, that's what I'm saying. It's a unicorn. Anyway. Jaffe, did you see how much Gran Turismo is charging for a single car? $40 of real money. I talked about this last week, and I got a bunch of GT fans. I haven't played it. I might pick it up because it does look like it could be a lot of fun. And, I was like, that seemed ludicrous to me. And then I've heard two sides of it. I've heard, I would say probably 60% of people who've come at me after that story have said, I play Gran Turismo. Yeah, you can buy your way, and the prices are a lot higher, and they didn't reveal the prices in the previews and the review copies, and that's pretty shitty. But to be fair, even though the prices are a lot higher, it doesn't take you that long to earn the credits if you don't want to pay a dime. And then I've had some people saying, dude, I've been playing for like 15 hours, and I've got like a sixth of what I need to buy what would cost a $40 car. So I haven't played it enough to know. I think, to me, the thing that's mostly troubling about that story is just that Sony wouldn't have revealed that in reviews. But, I mean, again, that's not their job to, right? I mean, if I was Sony and marketing and PR came to me and said, well, it's your game, Herman Hulst, it's your studio, but we don't recommend sending out review copies with that data in there, I'd probably do the same goddamn thing. I'd probably go, you know what? My reputation as a company might take a little bit of a hit, but it's nothing compared to the hit we would take of people not buying if they understand it wrong. Better to let it go out there and let the chips fall where they may. So I don't know. Yeah, so Eddie in the chat says, Jaffe, I haven't spent a dime and I own 50 cars, some high levels. That's what I'm saying. I don't know enough about it to speak to it intelligently yet because I haven't played it. Some people are saying, it's a grind and it sucks. And some people are saying, no, the game is awesome. It's fun. And by the nature of playing a fun, awesome game, they're pretty generous with their virtual currency. I have no idea. Zaf says, even if you can earn it, the fact that buying costs that much is absurd and a disgusting business practice. Well, yeah, but that, to be fair, I mean, I understand what you're saying, and I understand your point, and I don't think you're wrong in some ways, but that's like being mad at people who make chocolate, and it's like, can you believe they make this chocolate that makes us overweight and unhealthy and gives us diabetes? It's like, well, y'all are buying it. People buying it hand over fist, these fucking microtransactions. That's where most of the companies these days make. They're making over $1 billion a year. Some of them over $1 billion a quarter. Come on now. Mechanic says, my son is playing GT. All he hears is yelling from his room when he's getting the licenses. It gets tough, but it's satisfying. Yeah, I might play it. I've never been a GT guy, but I was also never a From Software guy until I got into Demon Souls. So, people can change, man. If I can change and you can change, then they can change. That's what Russia needs right now. Just watch Rocky 4 and everything will be okay. Blah, blah, blah says, hey, Jaffe, what would it take to bring Xbox Series X back from the dead? Literally has no games. That's a moronic, stupid statement. Okay. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm reading the chat. Okay, anyway, the point, though, is somebody says, well, what this story about Halo really means is that Bonnie Ross shouldn't have a job. I guess she's the general manager of the studio, and if that's, unless there's stuff we don't know about, like she's been bitching to her bosses for, 4 years going, I'm telling you, this isn't going to work. You never know really where the blame is. I'll give you an example without naming names. There was a very high-profile game that I was, tangentially, not really involved in, but aware of, and I knew a lot of the people. And the game was canceled. And I talked to the person who you would think would have been in charge of why the game was canceled. And they said to me, I got a really shitty review on my yearly review from my boss. And I said, oh, well, what was the problem? And this person said, well, my boss thought that, because I was overseeing this game that had spent a lot of money and ultimately was canceled, that was on me. And I said, well, what, isn't it? And they said, well, it would be, but I had spent the last year and a half saying this isn't working. And upper management saying, give it time. They just have to find it. They just have to find the fun. And this person knew 18, 24 months prior that this thing should have been put out of its fucking misery. So you can't really point a finger at Bonnie Ross and feel intelligent about it. What you can do, I think, that's fair is say, ultimately, what you're dealing with, somewhere in the chain, there's a meaningful decision maker or group of decision makers that can't get their shit together enough to run a service-based game properly. And we don't know, we don't know what that is. Okay. But anyway, there you go. I hope they'll put stuff out. I would love to come back and be excited to come back to Halo. I haven't played it in about a month. I will come back because I miss it. I really like it. It is a great fucking competitive shooter. It's wonderful. And I hate that it's getting more of a reputation for losing players than being this great shooter. And this guy who's leaving, I don't know what that says, but the multiplayer lead, should take a fucking bow on the way out. If he was in charge of game modes and systems, and the lead for all multiplayers, all the games multiplayer, he did a hell of a job, man. He did a hell of a fucking job. How can Microsoft spend so much money but not give their biggest IP any help? Again, I don't think it's an impossible solve. I think there's a management sticky widget somewhere, because how else would you explain it? How hard is it to go and outsource, even if you don't have the local people, go and outsource a developer for like 4 months to make some fucking DLC? And how hard is it to have a manager who works with outsourcers and has experience working with outsourcers to go, if it's not working, it's not working. Let's move on. This isn't rocket science. They've got a brilliant foundation to build maps. Just put some fucking maps out, man. Put some fucking maps out. Fuck you, Turtle. Turtle says, Jaffe, you need to play more first-person shooters. Halo's not that fun. Fuck you, bitch. It's fun to me. I play pretty much everything that's out. Come at me, what an arrogant little statement, Turtle 15. Like it's not subjective. Like there's just a defined sense of what is fun, and you know what it is. And I've been playing games for over 40 years, and I don't know, and I need you to show up and let me know what's fun. You talk that way to people in real life, and they don't sock you in the goddamn gob, I'd be surprised, Turtle. You old fucking moron. Welcome, Turtle. I love you. You're my best friend. Spaz, our good friend Spaz of World of Long Plays, by the way, one of our generous sponsors, wants you to know he's been a member for 16 months of the God of War. Think about what he's doing for this channel and what you could be doing for this channel instead of what I don't know. But thank you, Spaz. He says this. He says, I can order Xbox Series X's straight from Microsoft's website, and I have been trying to get some for people, but nobody wants any. Well, I mean, the danger with any of these companies now is competition is fucking fierce as fuck, man. And so I hate to say it like this because it's such a cynical way of thinking, but you really are only as good as your last quarter, because there's so much content coming out everywhere that, you got to keep banging the drum. I mean, and they know that. Microsoft's not idiots. That's why they've acquired all these studios. Eventually, they're supposed to be getting on a cadence where they're putting out game and game and game, like Netflix is dropping shit all the time. I don't know what they're doing, because if you're not excited for Xbox Series X right now, because, I mean, look, I haven't turned mine on since maybe a month and a half. I've only been on PC and PlayStation, but that's how it goes. My PlayStation went through a very long dry season because I was playing nothing but Xbox, but it is very weird that these things are, that Xbox has taken so long to put shit out. It's very fucking weird. Top Gun suggests that 343 is over its head. Games need to become smaller rather than bigger. Focus on what works and expand from there. The idea that everything has to be open world makes no sense. We will chat about that in just a couple of minutes as it relates to some tweets that came out from the development community, actually. It absolutely turns in to that. Okay. So, last thing, but it's also, this kind of speaks to that. Forespoken comes out today. You know, the Forespoken game, which is a PlayStation exclusive launch. It'll be out everywhere, but my understanding is Square Enix has an exclusive deal for console, at least for PlayStation. Here's what they say. We have made the decision to move. There's something in here you really need to hear. There's something in here you really need to hear. We have made the decision to move the release of Forespoken to October 11th, 2022. It was supposed to come out in May. Our vision for this exciting new IP is to deliver a game world and hero that gamers across the globe will want to experience for years to come. So getting it right is extremely important to us. To that end, during the next few months, we will focus all of our efforts on polishing the game and can't wait for you all to experience Frey's journey this fall. So there's some news. If you were looking forward to it, you'll be getting it around Halloween time. Okay, whatever. It happens. I wish them well, and more time to polish is not always, but usually a good thing. People who've gotten to play early builds say the motion's really good, but there's not a lot to do. It's a pretty empty world. Hopefully that is going to be looked at as well. I'm sure it will. The more interesting one, and again, I'm probably in a cynical mood, so take this with nothing more than a grain of salt, but I was assuming this is being presented as a single-player, single-experience game, and it probably still is, but our vision, they say, for this exciting new IP is to deliver a game world and hero that gamers across the globe will want to experience for years to come. Given that this is Square Enix, who can't seem to do anything without wanting it to be a service game, I'm starting to wonder, Forspoken's not a service game, is it? Do they just mean that the intellectual property hopefully will be able to be sequelized numerous times because players will fall in love with these characters in this world, and that's what this poorly worded statement suggests. But you could also read it and go, are they saying the game Forspoken, gamers across the globe will want to experience for years to come, kind of like a service fucking base game? Square Enix is out of their fucking goddamn minds. It wouldn't surprise me if them getting slammed by Babylon Falls, which is now the lowest rated, reviewed PS exclusive, PS5 exclusive in history, which there's not a lot of history, but it's beaten, what was that fucking launch game that people didn't like that came from the guys who do the PvE Dark, they made Dark Sector, but now they make the one with the robots, whatever. That game was Godfall. There you go, SM. Thank you. Yeah, that game was the champion of the worst rated. Now it is Babylon Falls. So maybe they looked at that and said, okay, guys, we got to fix this. Guardians of the Galaxy underperformed, according to Square. Thought it was great. Clearly, Avengers underperformed. They already said that. Now Babylon Falls can't get more than 600 people online at the same goddamn cockadoodie time on Steam. We got to make sure Forspoken comes out and is as good as we think it can be. Let's give it some more time. I can't imagine those things aren't related. But some, again, man, writing's on the wall. Square leadership, unless something turns around, Square Enix, at least the American version, somebody's got to go. And maybe they're going to be talented somewhere else. I'm not one of these assholes like, get them out of the company. No, maybe they're talented. You don't rise to the head of the company or to a decision maker without having talent, but maybe they've put you in the wrong place. Right? Similarly to what's happening at the goddamn Halo. At the goddamn Halo, they can't get any maps out. How hard is it? How hard is it to get some goddamn cockadoodie maps out when you're the biggest fucking title that entire fucking company has when it comes to intellectual property? You got a television show coming out pretty soon on I think it's on the Peacock or the Paramount. It's Paramount. You can't get a goddamn cockadoodie map? Come on now. Carlos wants you to know, he says, hey, thank you for the super chat, buddy. He says, hey, Jaffe. Love from Brazil. You've motivated drugs. Carlos, coming at you from Brazil, says, hey, Dave, I love you from Brazil, or love from Brazil. You've motivated me to start game programming years ago by watching your Making a God of War. Nice. So do you professionally make the video games now, good sir? That's excellent. Well, I'm glad. I appreciate your super chat. And more importantly, I appreciate your company. I appreciate you being here with us. And good for you, man. That's awesome. That got you into making the games. Good. Let me know if you are actually working as a pro or making your own shit that we can play. Ryan P, thank you, buddy. He drops a super chat. He says, invite Fratanga on for a debate. He owned ya, Papa. No, he didn't. He's a fucking moron. First off, anybody who doesn't show their fucking face on the goddamn commentary channel, that worries me a little bit. What are you hiding? That's number one. Number two, Ryan P, what do you mean he owned me? He literally didn't understand, and that may have been my fault. I'll cop to that. But if he understood the video he was criticizing, there's no goddamn way what he said, I said. And he would know that if he was a bright fella. He can come on anytime he wants. I don't give a shit. Okay, the behind the scenes, says Zaf, of God of War is excellent, as are the ones for 2 and 3. I watch those multiple times in the day. Well, you know where that came from? That came from our desire to do what DVDs at the time were doing. At the time, you know, I don't know if you guys grew up with DVDs or you were adults with DVDs, but there was a period there for, I don't know, 8-9 years where almost every movie you got on DVD, there was some behind the scenes, interviews and director commentary. It was delightful if you were a film fan. And we were like, hey, let's do that for a video game. So we went all out on those behind the scenes stuff. It was great. BB says, please someone call Jaffe, otherwise he's going to be crossing the line. What about, BB? Let me tell you something. I have another topic I want to talk about, and I'm sure people are going to get mad at me, and I'll make it part of another show because you're goddamn right, you know, talk about it. But, you know, anyway, Brian says, Jaffe, did you hear that there's rumors of a God of War TV show on Amazon? I have heard those rumors. Yes, those rumors just came out today. So there you go. Okay, so... All right, let's, but anyway, there's your Forespoken news. I want to tell you a little bit about Dead Space. On Friday, the Dead Space creators will be doing a live stream developer update at 10 o'clock in the morning on Friday, California time. Yes, I will be live streaming it, of course. I'm excited for it because there's a little bit more information dropping in that, you know, I love Dead Space 2, as people know. I didn't really vibe with Dead Space 1, but I only played it for about 20 minutes. I don't remember what it was, but something turned me off. But this is not a remaster. This is a remake. Every asset, every item, every animation, it's all being redone. They're also going to be including sections and areas of Dead Space 1 that were cut. And they're going to be bringing things like Zero G from Dead Space 2 and other mechanics to bring it not just up to date, but make it more fun. They've got a new, they're calling it a peeling body damage system, which builds on the dismemberment. If you remember, it was one of the first games where you could target body parts and blow them off, and it affected how the AI moved and sort of how you approach them tactically. Well, this one is a new peeling body system, which builds on the original's dismemberment by dynamically removing the flesh from enemies' bodies. I don't know, other than just being painful, why I would target the flesh in a certain area, but it sounds great. And they're going to be giving us more of the skinny on Friday. I will be there to stream it if you want to hang out and watch it together. But they're going to be doing visual, sound, gameplay, everything. This is the quote from the creative director who actually left. He was the Valhalla creative director, if I understand it right. He specifically said, okay, I'm out of here, Ubisoft. I'm coming over to... whoever's making this, the EA folks, the developers, the ones who did Star Wars Squadron, because I want to make this fucking game. And so he says it's all brand new. It's all fucking brand new. Rebuilding all the elements, reshooting all the animations. So my mind is open, and I'm pretty excited about it. We'll see what happens. But this is coming up Friday, just giving you a heads up. Let's briefly talk about Russia and video games. Hang on, let me look at some of the chat real quick. Yeah, everybody wants Tom Holland for Kratos. Sure, there you go. Legend says a God of War TV show would not be as rewarding because it doesn't have enough characters for the new one. Now, if they do the old trilogy, then yeah, but I would rather take a movie. If they ever do anything with God of War, I will tell you I would much rather have it be a TV series than a movie, because I think there's actually a lot there that you can focus on. And I think if you only focus on the movie aspect, most of what you're going to get is a big action over the top thing. And I think we've seen too many movies like that with like gods and monsters and stuff since the first God of War came out in 2005 that I don't think it really would move the needle. Okay. Van says, dude, can they stop with the shows for every game franchise ever? Well, you don't have to watch them. And again, I'm not saying this is a valid news story. I don't know. But what I am saying is, like, you know, look, I'll watch Halo, the pilot. That's it. If it excites me, I'll watch more of it. But there's not a lot of video games that I would, you know, I don't really care for most video game worlds enough. Like if someone said, we're making an Elden Ring game, a movie or TV show, I wouldn't be like, fucking yes. Like, okay. I mean, I love Elden Ring. It's probably my favorite game of all time. But I'd be more interested in Bloodborne. If Sony said, we're making a Bloodborne TV series or a Detroit Become Human TV series, then I'd say, oh, okay. But Elden Ring's a bunch of fucking tropes from Tolkien and already from George R.R. Martin, and I know there's some unique shit, and I love that game. But it's not like you play Elden Ring and go, okay, this world is unique and strange and different, and I need to know what's going on. But I do feel that way about Bloodborne. Okay. Yeah, oh yeah, Bacon Magma says, I would love to see a Returnal TV show. I don't need it to be a different main character, but absolutely though. Yeah, Returnal's another one. But Sony actually has some really good video game properties, but they're not the ones that are the massive hits like the God of Wars, The Last of Us. I mean, Twisted Metal used to be that. It's not anymore. You would actually think that from a TV standpoint, those would be what they go after as well. Hopefully they will. Eddie J, thank you, buddy. He's been a member for 10 goddamn cock-a-doodie months. He says, Jaffe, hey, where the hell's my coffee mug? Wait. Okay, well, let's be clear, because that's important to me. Did you spin the wheel and win a coffee mug? And if you did, are you the one that wanted it in white and signed? Is that you? If it is, please let me know. Because if it is, they did start reselling the coffee mug, and I was going to have it sent out or sent to me on Wednesday to sign. By the way, somebody was asking about this hat. If you want to click on the link tree below this video, you can buy yourself a number of a variety of merch at the Gabbin and Game store, including this hat. Yeah, Eddie J, they have the mugs back in stock, and I will be ordering it. It'll be coming to me hopefully by Wednesday, Thursday. I'll sign it, and we'll put it in the mail the next week. And if anybody else is missing any of their swag they've won from spinning the wheel, and speaking of spinning the wheel, today is a spin the wheel day. So I don't want you to join the membership on this show just to spin the cock-a-doodie wheel. But there's the wheel over there. But a reminder, you will get to spin the wheel if you do join the membership. But don't join for that reason, because that'd be dumb. Join because you want to join and support the show and you like what it's about and you like some of the perks that come with it. Jaffe says, Kisuke, thank you, buddy, for being a member for 16 cock-a-doodie months. Thank you, sir. He says, Jaffe, do you know the name of Frankenstein's monster? I kind of thought his name was either Carl or Frankenstein's monster. I didn't know he had a name. I was watching recently, I'd never seen Bride of Frankenstein, though, and somebody was streaming it on Screener, and I watched the last 15 or 20 minutes. It was pretty good, and at the end, when the monster finally meets the Bride of Frankenstein, she wants nothing to do with them. She screams and runs away. I thought they were like, going to be like, what was that Oliver Stone movie with Juliette Lewis and Woody Harrelson? American-born killers or something. I thought Frankenstein's monster and the Bride of Frankenstein's monster were going to go out and be this great killing couple. Instead, she's just like, you're a fucking horrible-looking, scary motherfucker, and I'm getting out of here. And that was the end. Yeah, Rob the Mod says his name was Rob the Mod. Natural-born killers. That's right. That's what it's called. That movie fucking depressed the fuck out of me. I don't ship to Europe, though. No, I do not. I only ship in America because it's crazy expensive. Get this. I'm sending a document over to Movie Games this week. And Movie Games is the video game company that I'm doing some consulting with right now. Really cool game. They had food truck delivery, which was great. A demo in the Steam Next. Obviously, gas station simulator, which I fucking love. Lust from Beyond, which I fucking love. But anyway, I asked Jill, I said, hey, can you take this down to the UPS when she was here on Wednesday and send it out to Poland? And she calls me and she says, yeah, it's going to be $170. You sure you want to do that? And I'm like, I don't know. Let me call Poland and make sure they want to reimburse me for $175 for 4 slips of paper. So that's why I don't ship. It's stupidly expensive. But anyway, here's the story. This is not so much about this story, but it's kind of happening in various places. Trolls review bomb Cyberpunk 2077 after devs speak out against Russia's invasion of Ukraine. This is happening over on PlayStation as well. So basically, as like you probably know, a number of software and hardware companies in the game space are saying, hey, you know what? Russia, fuck yourself. We don't support what you're doing in Ukraine. And in that, we're going to pull our services. We're going to help in our small way. And yes, they acknowledge it doesn't punish necessarily Putin, but it does hopefully as a combined all of these efforts from soft drink companies to bank companies like Citibank and Visa and MasterCard, all the, to video game companies. It continues to push the Russian people to say what our government is doing in our name is wrong, and hopefully put pressure on their government to stop. And I understand. And I think that makes sense. And I'm glad Sony's doing it. I'm glad these companies are doing it. But I don't think this headline is correct. They're not trolls, they're bots. I mean, we know for a fact that, America probably does it too, but certainly we know China and Russia historically are on the internet farming out these stories and comments, trying to sway Western world public opinion of things, okay? So it's gotten to Cyberpunk. Steam has already kind of taken them down. It's like, hey, you don't really fit our criteria for what it takes to do a review. But here's the article from Kotaku. I'll just read you a little bit of it. Despite a recent uptick in goodwill thanks to its massive 1.5 patch, Cyberpunk 2077 spent the weekend It spent the weekend in a cabana down in Honduras, see, with Cuban cigars and beautiful hookers, while it was trying to decide what it would do once it turned 30. Despite a recent uptick, it spent the weekend beset by negative Steam reviews over a different matter entirely. Now, I love Cyberpunk. Now, the patch has come. It's one of my favorite games of the year. But the Cyberpunk developers released a statement in support of Ukraine. Here's what some of the comments said. Games have no borders. You shall feel so good to oppress Russian citizens. Have a good day. Okay. Here's another one. I wish CDPR bankruptcy and you guys all get laid off ASAP. Well, if you go bankrupt, to be acquired by Tencent. I stand with Putin. Here's another one. What are the CDPR's leaders thinking about? This war is none of your business, idiot. If you stand with Ukraine and Ukraine Nazis, then I go to support Russia. Okay. And this is happening over at Sony as well. So Sony, I don't know if they've shut everything down, but they've certainly pulled Gran Turismo. Now, the one thing I do take issue with, this is on their blog, if you go over there to their blog, the thing I take issue with on that, though, is that somebody's saying they paid for the game, they downloaded the game, and suddenly Sony's taking it away without offering a refund. Okay, that's bullshit. That's absolutely bullshit. But that said, everything else, though, you've got all these people in the Sony thread on their blog talking about, please return GT7 to Russians. What else? I paid the money. Well, the person who paid, that's different. That's different. It appears Ukraine is requesting from manufacturers to discontinue selling to Russia. And then there's this whole argument about, do they believe Russian propaganda claiming to cleanse Nazis while invading a neighboring country? On and on and on and on. So, it's clear a lot of these folks are bots, just like whenever I post anything on this stream critical of China. I get I forget what they call them, like red pennies or something, where they pay younger people like a quarter or something for every comment to go into message boards and sort of spread the word of the great, Communist Party. I'm sure a lot of that is what is happening here. So just as a service provided to you by Gaiden Games, be wary of what's in the comments, kids. You never fucking know if you're reading something from Vladimir himself or if it's actually somebody in Russia just going, I would like to play this game, please, you fuckers. I didn't bomb Ukraine. I don't know. But be aware, because that is happening. And the other thing to say about it is, fuck Russia. If you stand with Putin, you're a fucking moron. You're a fucking goddamn cockadoodie moron. Fuck off. Let me get this. I want to say thank you very much to Augusto, who has dropped a super chat. He didn't say much, but he dropped a super chat. And he says, here you go, you old cockadoodie motherfucker. And I appreciate that, buddy. We got another one from Louis Bill. Louis Bill Sluggers showing up, and he says, just for support. Thanks, buddy. I don't get to see you live very often. Louis Bill, I appreciate that support. Thank you very much, sir. Very kind, very generous. Welcome. Glad you're here live with us today. Sorry, I'm give the chat their due. Let me just give it a read real quick. Do you have contacts, Jaffe, or laser eyes? Jacob, I used to have terrible sight, used to wear glasses. And then I got LASIK back in over 20 years ago now. And it was wonderful, but it is absolutely worn off the effect. And I am going to go get some actual glasses now. So I will have, I can see fine up close, but 20 feet away, it starts to go pretty fast. Mayan says, I saw a news report. An ex-Russian general says Putin has terminal cancer, which is why he's gone crazy. I've never heard that insanity is a response to cancer, but even so. Augusto, oh, there you go. Augusto does say something. That's weird that you didn't put it in the chat, but I'm glad I caught it. He says there's a podcast that said Sony gave God of War the green light as a response to Ninja Gaiden's OG Xbox exclusivity. Is that true? Because Dark Odyssey started development in 2002, influenced by Onimusha. I don't know if it's true, but I've never heard that. My experience with it was I was designing games in 2001 after Twisted Metal Black shipped. And I had 3 games I was designing, one of which would become God of War. We decided on God of War around the end of 2001, the start of 2002. We did a prototype. Phil Harrison came over to play it. He was the head of PlayStation at the time, or head of software, or whatever his job was. Big guy. Visually big guy. He's very tall, but also a big wig in the company. Decision maker. And he said, okay, go, produce it. You have a green light. So whether or not in his mind, and he later relayed to someone else that got picked up on the podcast, he wouldn't have cared what the game was as long as it was competition for Ninja Gaiden. I couldn't tell you, but that never came up to me. But yes, Dark Odyssey, which was the name for God of War at the beginning, was influenced by Onimusha, Devil May Cry, and Ico in terms of games that were kind of in the zeitgeist at that time. Oh, okay. Oh shit, Augusto. No. Oh my God, he paid twice. Oh God, dude. Okay. Well, thank you for that, buddy. If I can give you a refund on one of those, I will. I'm not sure how that works, but I will try. I think what it is you request a refund. So you request the refund, and when they hit me up on YouTube, I'll say, yes, I'm not contesting this. I don't know what happened there. You probably hit return too fast. At 30 years, do you recommend laser for myself? Everybody's different. It's a pretty safe procedure. Every now and then you do hear about people who have problems. I had it in LA. My wife at the time had it. It was awesome. Super fucking easy. Then one of the designers on God of War had it, and he went on to work at Zipper, and then now I think he's the head of creative over at Creative Labs that make State of Emergency for Xbox. And he said when he had it, he started having really bad halo bloom effects at night, and it was the same doctor that did ours. So you need to do your own research, but I can tell you that for me and my ex, it was wonderful. It was fucking great. Brian East, going back to Putin maybe having cancer, he says, I suppose it depends where the cancer is. That's true. I don't know if you guys ever watched. I don't know if you guys ever watched. What's it called? Madam Secretary, which I fucking loved. I like Madam Secretary was great. A little cheesy, but great. But in one episode, the president started like flirting with the Secretary of State and being all inappropriate. And then he wanted to launch all these bombs. And literally there was almost a nuke war. And then it turned out, oh no, you have some cyst that's benign on your brain that's pushing against your part of your brain, and that's making you say crazy things. So they went in, they took out the benign cyst, and then he was like, oh, I'm sorry I flirted with you, Elizabeth. It was awesome. I love that show. State of Decay. Did I say State of Decay? What am I saying it wrong? Bacon Mac, Emmanuel A1 says State of Decay, and then he goes, ay, ay, ay. Am I getting it wrong? I don't know. That's State of, what did I call it? State of Play? I don't fucking, the zombie goddamn show, the game. It's not that I'm getting old. I figured out what this is, by the way. A lot of people think your brain gets bad when you get old. It's not, I mean, I'm sure it does. But in my case, it's not that I get old and my brain stops working. It's that there's only so much content on the hard drive I can store. And so, it's not that I don't know it's not state of emergency is what I said, Jacob. Okay, thank you. It's that I got a lot of this shit in my brain more than most people do if you're younger. So fuck off. Yes, I know that I'm very familiar with the difference between both of those games. State of Decay is the Xbox game, and State of Emergency was the board game that was on that you could play on the Atari 2600 that came out 2 years ago. I understand. Okay, the dude comes in hot. I don't know. Fuck you, Bradley. Bradley says, that sounds like a roundabout way of saying I'm getting old. I hate you and I want you to die in a fire, Bradley. The dude drops in. He says, hey, here's some ducats, bitch. Stick it up your butthole. Listen to me. Thank you, the dude. He offers some snazzy super chat there, buddy. He says, I enjoy your videos and contributions to the conversation of games. Thank you. Thank you for watching, buddy, and thank you for saying those nice things. Here you go. Here's a cup of coffee. Look at that, the dude, you old money bags. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate that very, very much. And I love doing them, and I love that you enjoy watching them. Thank you very much. What if Augusto super chats another 20 because he's like, oh, you didn't see my comment, which is you don't need to worry about giving me a refund, and he spends $20 so I see it. Don't do that. Don't do that. Oh God, here's Eric Lennon going, Jaffe, do you know anyone who has had orthodontic surgery? I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. Good night, Papa. Maybe needs his beauty sleep. All right, Mayan, good to see you, buddy. Thank you for hanging out with us. Okay, let's talk about Elden Ring for a brief moment. I just want to tell you how successful this game has been. I also want to tell you that something beat the shit out of it this week on the charts in the UK. Let's talk about that. I know what State of Emergency is. Official channel. He's like, State of Emergency is an early Rockstar. Yes, I know. State of Emergency was best known for its massive NPCs running at you in malls and things. And it was like Robotron over the shoulder, or actually more than Robotron. It was like, look how much shit we can throw on the screen. And it sold better than it deserved to sell because it was coming off GTA 3, which was a cultural fucking slam dunk. And so everybody was like, what are they going to do next? What are they going to do next? Crazed Assassin says, Jaffe, Gran Turismo is amazing. Plays amazing with a wheel. What if I don't have a wheel? Should I get it? Should I get it? Okay, let's talk about Elden. As reported, this is in Destructoid. So, as reported by Eurogamer, they say, and I'm saying as Eurogamer reported that Destructoid reported that now I'm telling to you, Elden Ring hit a peak of 953,426 concurrent players on Steam. Think about that. Huge. This incredible number places the new release as the sixth most played title in Steam history, just behind Cyberpunk, CSGO, Lost Ark, and PUBG. Think about that. That's just on Steam. So how many people were playing that Call of Duty game this weekend? It was launched on February 25th. It has done insane numbers. Let's see where it's at right now. Currently, right now, Elden Ring has 633,000 people playing it on Steam. That is only behind Lost Ark that has 642,000. Now again, Lost Ark has more staying power at the moment because it's been around longer. We'll see if this holds, but that's pretty goddamn good. But this weekend, now again, this is the UK releases numbers. Gran Turismo knocked it off the top of the charts this weekend. It's the second game from PlayStation this year to take the #1 spot right out the goddamn gate. But the last 4 weeks, they've been jumping around. It was Horizon, and then that dropped to the new Pokemon, and then that dropped to Elden Ring, and now that has dropped to Gran Turismo, okay? 76% of sales were for the PlayStation 5. Obviously, it's an exclusive, and then the remainder on PS4. So most of it was on the PS5. I wonder between that and Horizon, or Sony going, okay, moving ahead, we're no longer doing cross-gen. I don't know. I mean, they're still making a shit ton of money. I don't know why they would not. I don't know. Anyway, Elden Ring dropped number. Now, this is interesting. This is them reporting on Game Industry Biz. As a result, Elden Ring slips to number 2. Now, this is only box products in the UK, so we can take something from it, but like at a 30,000 foot view level. But it's pretty limited in terms of the data and what it can tell us. But here's what it says. As a result, Elden Ring goes to 2, 69% sales fall week on week. It says this is quite a strong performance for a game of this type in its second week, where sales falls of around 80% of the norm. So there's about a 10% improvement over, I guess, Bloodborne's second week. I'm not sure. It says Elden Ring was also a digital smash hit last week and is comfortably the best-selling game of the year so far. Third place is Pokemon, which actually rose 16%. Horizon Forbidden West is now fourth place, which dropped 47% week on week. So it came out of the gate strong, and it's now starting to kind of, that's not going to peter out. I wonder if we're going to see Horizon have the same staying power as Miles Morales and what's the other one? Miles and there's one other game. It might be Ratchet, it might be Demon's Souls, that every time the stock of hardware gets replenished, those consistently return to the top 10. I wonder if Horizon is going to be another one of those, or it's going to be more like it had its coming out party and then it's kind of going to be a nice seller, but it's never going to be, the Miles numbers. I have no idea. And then the other big entry was Triangle Strategy, which comes in at number 7. It probably would have came in higher if they hadn't named it like a fucking moron. I understand that Triangle Strategy is a direct translation from the Japanese. I appreciate that. But if your goal, once again, Square, is to sell copies of your games, if you're interested in that, or if you're interested in not having another press release where you talk about how a game is underperformed or didn't meet expectations, just a thought, maybe you don't want to name your game Triangle Strategy, and that could at least be a step in the right direction. I know I didn't go to college for marketing, but it is what it is. It sold exactly the same as last year's Bravely Default 2. It only managed half the sales of the same developer's Octopath Traveler. Box sales only. Okay. Let's talk a little bit more. Let me get the chat real quick. It's going to keep selling, talking about Horizon. Horizon 1 sold 20 million. Forbidden West will probably beat that. Could do, absolutely. Yeah, Bradley, you have a great point. Horizon keeps releasing right before big releases that take attention away. Zero Dawn came out a week before the Switch and Breath of the Wild. I wonder about that. I wonder about I can totally see if you're Sony and Breath of the Wild is coming out, maybe you move your schedule a little bit, but I can see them not thinking that Elden Ring was going to be as big as it is, right? And how big is it? Of course, I would say, of course, I went to college. David Lovett says, did you go to college at all, though? Of course, I said, of course, because for my generation, it was my kids don't want to go to college. They can if they want to, but I'm not pushing them, and neither is my ex. So my knee jerk is to say, of course I went to college, because 98% of people in my high school, probably 99, went to college. And most kids of the 80s that were teens in the 80s were raised to think that that was the goal, right? Today it's very, very different. But yeah, I went to college. I just didn't study that. Should have studied communications, but I didn't. Oh yeah, Brian King says usually Ghost Tsushima comes back to the charts, at least last year. Yeah, I'm talking about, and that comes back for a variety of reasons. Yeah, Ghost had legs for days. A lot of that Top Gun and Brian King, I think, is word of mouth. But when you're talking about Ratchet and Miles re-entering, I'm assuming it's because they're great games, phenomenal games. I like Miles better than the original Spider-Man from Insomniac. And I loved the original Spider-Man, but I like Miles meaningfully more. But a lot of it, I think, is hardware coming back into stores, and people want to buy, the evergreen stuff that they hear is fucking phenomenal. Let me get this super chat. Emmanuel A1, thank you, buddy. He says, you're the man, Jaffe. When Fertanga fires back, don't back down. I appreciate it, Emmanuel. Fertanga's a guy who made a video about me, I guess today or last night or something, and I don't really care. I just thought it would be fun to respond to, and I did. I think he didn't understand my video. Maybe English not first language. I mean, I'm not being a dick. I'm like, maybe he just didn't understand because it was a relatively nuanced concept that I even struggled to articulate, and it was my concept, or it was my proposing the concept. So, but I appreciate that, Emmanuel. I probably will ignore him from now on. I mean, he didn't, it's not like I just wanted to respond, and I did, unless he says something new that's a lie or not true or poorly thought out. Mo, thank you for the super chat. He says, F you, Jaffe. I like how you can't even write fuck. Like, why would you write F you, Mo? Just write fuck. F you, Jaffe, says Mo. I can't play 2 games at once, so I can't do Elden Ring before I finish Horizon. And damn, it's long. Fuck you for just dropping games. Again, I mean, I get asked that relatively often, and I don't know if it's the nature of having ADD or not, but I will tell you that I walk out of movies easily. I put books down easily. I stop watching shows. I don't have it in me to stick with something that is boring. And I'm not saying one is right, one is wrong. My brain just doesn't compute that. My brain goes, unless there's something on the other side of the boredom that is of value, and then I'll push through it with willpower for a little bit, limited, but a little bit. Other than that, I'm like, well, I'm not having fun anymore. Why would I keep playing it? But Elden has totally sucked me in. I had been bouncing between Elden, Shadow Warrior 3, and Cyberpunk. But lately, my heart belongs to Elden at the moment. Think about this, though. So Elden Ring, again, this is all we have on the UK, but UK has started to put out some digital numbers a little bit. We don't have digital yet for Gran Turismo. Elden Ring is the biggest UK video game launch since Call of Duty, according to digital and physical data. It's 2.5 much bigger than Horizon Forbidden West. Now, to be fair, it's on Steam and it's on Xbox, so keep that in context. But think about this. It's the biggest launch outside of Call of Duty and FIFA. It's week 1. Now, this is the weird part that I struggled with getting some data for you guys. Its week 1 sales are bigger than Cyberpunk 2077 and Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Okay, but if you Google how much did those sell, Cyberpunk, apparently, I can't believe this. How many copies did Cyberpunk sell in the first week? Last year, CD Projekt Red reported Cyberpunk sold over 13 million copies in the first week, including 8 million pre-orders. I understand the 8 million pre-orders. I don't understand the remaining 5 million. 5 million that sold in a week. But so let's assume it was 5 million, and then Valhalla, I remember, sold 1.6 million, which was the biggest selling week for Assassin's Creed game. So if this sold more than both, they're basically saying between Steam, PlayStation, Xbox, digital and physical, Elden Ring has sold over 6 million copies in a week, which is nothing to sneeze at. It's something to celebrate. Best-selling game of the year so far. This one's also interesting. 85% of Elden Ring sales were on Xbox were downloaded. In PC, it was 73. PS4 and 5, it was even. So on the PS, people are still buying the discs, but everywhere else, people are starting to move off. And I've never bought a physical piece of software for my Xbox. I've bought software. I played Resident Evil Village on Xbox, and I bought it digitally. I bought Little Nightmares 2, and I bought it digitally. But I would never buy a disc for my Xbox. It doesn't make a lot of sense for me personally. But it's a huge smash, and there you go. Okay, let's get to the main story of the day. Let me go to the chat real quick. Hang on. Elden Ring is not on Game Pass, right? No, it is not on Game Pass. Cyberpunk did really well at release despite the controversy. Yeah, and I actually was one of the people who bought it at release on Stadia, actually. And I enjoyed it enough to say I want to buy it again when it comes out with the patch. Look at that. Troy is filming from the great state of Alabama. Comes in and says, thank you, buddy. He's been a diet soda soldier for 15 months. He's survived. You know, a lot of people don't make it off the boat when they're a diet soda soldier. They're the meat grinder. But Troy ain't no small fish. He's out there fighting the good fight. He says, Jaffe, old buddy, old pal. That's all he says. My answer to that would be, good to see you, sir. Yeah, Mo says the whole Souls games over 10 years are 20 million, and Elden Ring hit it 6 million first week. The real thing that I'm curious about with that game are the legs on it. Like, it, you know, you got to give the first week to hype. You got to give the first week to amazing word of mouth. But I wonder, like, if I hadn't played Bloodborne, if I hadn't played Demon Souls, and if I didn't have the chat there with me, walking me through those games, I don't know what my response to Elden Ring would be. Would it be one of those games that everybody raves about, but a lot of people get it and take it back? I've had a couple of people hit me up on Twitter saying, "Oh, I bought it, but I took it back, or I refunded it." I have no idea. I have no idea, and I don't know. Danny Sullivan. Danny Sullivan says, "What's Elden Ring's budget?" I have zero idea what that is. Buying a Stadia must bring great shame. No, I don't have the. I play it on my computer. But at the time, it was the only Cyberpunk that ran really, really fucking well. So, you know, no. Jaffe trying to act all young and hip. I'm all digital. Who still buys DVD-ROM? Oh, please. Yeah, it's what was it called? It was DVD versus, no, it was Blu-ray versus, there was that competitor, I forget. There was like the beta to the DVD. Fuck you, Mr. K. That's the point. Thank you for doing the timestamps the last couple of times. I appreciate it. I will be doing them tonight. Thanks, buddy. You know I appreciate that. Elden Ring has legs, says Julian. It might. I mean, why do you say that? I mean, HD DVD. That's right. That's right. Why do you think it has legs? I'm not saying it doesn't, but what have you seen to suggest that? I mean, clearly it's on a fucking Monday at, you know, late in the evening or early evening. It's over 500,000 people playing it right now. Mechanic says, I've been waiting to play a fantasy game, but I'm not a fan of Elder games, New World, Valheim. This game scratches that itch. Oh, Elder Scroll. Yeah. I fucking love the game. I fucking. Now let's talk about, I want to make something very clear to you. Heretic666 got married on Friday. Congratulations, sir. That is wonderful that you have found a person on the world that you think you want to spend the rest of your life with. Hit me back in 5 years and let me know if you still feel the same way. That said, though, for now, congratulations. I worry about the knee-jerk of congratulatory messages for marriage and condolences for divorces. I think the concept of marriage is archaic and outdated, which is the same way as saying archaic. But for some people, it works really, really, really well. And sometimes it works really well for an amount of time, and then it stops. And for some people, it's for a life. For me, I loved being married. And then I stopped loving being married. And then I wasn't married anymore. But that said, everybody's going to have a different experience, and I wish you the best, you and your love the best, and congratulations, and enjoy it. Enjoy it for however long it lasts, because it's wonderful. It's wonderful. Brett Williams says, just saying hi, Papa Jaffe. Appreciate the content. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate your super chat. But more importantly, thank you for being part of our community, buddy. Thank you. You're working on kids. I like it. We're working on kids now. We're trying to create them. We're trying to make a creation called kids. Good for you. Good for you. Kids now. Now again, everybody's adventure is going to be different, man. So enjoy your marriage. I will tell you, kids for me though, I can't rave enough about having the kid folk. I've adored every second of it, even the hard stuff. Just brilliant. Zaf says marriage is complex and a social norm that is outdated in many ways. People think you don't love someone if you don't get married to them. Yeah, it's built on a lot of. The reason I kind of push back on marriage. Are you saying, do you think you need to try it to have this point of view? You mean marriage or Elden Ring? I don't know which one you're talking about. The reason I push back on it is two reasons. First, the history of marriage is incredibly misogynistic and just built around the idea of men owning property and owning women, basically, and women not owning property. And more importantly, although that's huge, well, I don't know if it's more importantly, but equally important perhaps is the commercialization of it. If somebody said, we got married, we had 5 of our very best friends there, it was a low-key affair, it was there to really celebrate our commitment and our love, I would say that sounds like a start to a great relationship or a great married relationship. I think when you put on the show that society tells you need the cake and you need the venue and you need the band and you need to invite these people, then it stops becoming, then you enter into that institution, that social institution, without a real understanding of why you're doing it, unless you consciously know it's stupid, but you're doing it so your mother-in-law doesn't lose her shit. I have no idea. Marriage was misogynistic from the beginning. Go look up the history of marriage, Amon. What was it for? It was men would give permission for other men to marry their daughters. There was a dowry in some countries associated with it. Women could not own property. And so when women came of age, they either had to live at home or go live with another man because they couldn't take care of themselves, or they couldn't build wealth. Yeah, Zaf says it's disturbing when you hear some women focus on how fancy the ring is, which is supposed to be just a symbol. It's ridiculous. If you have no offense, if you have a wife or a husband who's focused on the ring, they may be absolutely wonderful, but they're not very well read, I guess, because if you look up the history of the diamond industry has created false scarcity, and they've also created this bullshit of like 4 months salary or 8 months salary. Based on what? Based on the marketing of people who marketed diamonds, telling you, hey, this is what we can, pour into the zeitgeist and people will expect. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. Oh, it's different. Amon says, yeah, but what about people who get married and form a union of love? I agree with you. It's stupid how marriage is about rings and government documents. Yeah, but at which point, what does that mean? If you get married and you are in love, I guess, but why do you need to be married? But I'm not, let's move forward. There's nothing, it's a totally different conversation for a different show. And I am Heretic. Heretic's like, oh, fuck. No, Heretic, I do, because marriage is great for some people. And it was great for me. And sometimes it's great for people for the rest of their lives. Sometimes it's not. But I do applaud you and congratulate you, and I hope you guys have a great time. Okay. Let's talk about these developers who came out against the reviews of Elden Ring. And this kind of fascinated me for a couple of different reasons. If you don't know, this is from our very own Eddie Torres. I mean, I'd seen it elsewhere, but he took the screenshot because some of these accounts have been locked already. You can't find these anymore. But let me put this up on the Cock of Duty TV show. Okay. CR3D, I will respond to that if you remind me to in a little bit. Let me do this story first. Okay. So this is what they said. Ahmed Salama, I think this guy, I want to say this is a Ubisoft guy. He says, Elden Ring scored a 97 is proof that reviewers don't give a flaming poop about gamer UI. I don't know what X is. Experience, user experience. My life is a lie. I guess he does, for Ubisoft, the interfaces and stuff. Rebecca Fernandez O'Shea. The only Mexican leprechaun you ever met. She says they obviously don't give a fuck, a flaming poop about PC graphic stability and performance. I think most people would agree with Rebecca Fernandez O'Shea. She'll bring you green tortilla chips and a pot of gold and beans. Because Fernandez tends to be more of a name of someone who hails from Mexico. And O'Shea tends to be more of an Irish name. You see? An education is the greatest investment. And then Horizon Forbidden Blake apparently worked at the Gorilla, works at the Gorilla. He says they clearly don't give a shit about quest design either. So there's kind of two comments here, or there's two aspects here. One of them is, should developers criticize other developers? I don't have a problem with that. Now, I understand, I absolutely understand that there is a practical reason when you're working in the industry that you want to pull your punches, even if you don't like something. Because A, you might be working with that person in the future, or B, you know how hard it is, or B, or C, you know that person is working for a producer that you know is a shit show, and the fact they ship the game at all is worth celebrating. Any game that ships is worth celebrating, even if it's the worst game you ever fucking played. Because you can bet there's some stories about how that goddamn thing got shipped and how that goddamn thing went bad from the idea, which always starts as something people love for the most part. So I understand why you want to pull your punches if you're a developer, but I agree with this guy from he's the guy, Digital Foundry, this John Linneman. He's basically saying that they're allowed to voice their opinions on a game like anyone else. And I think whether you do or don't is up to you. And you know, the chips will fall where they may. And I've always been a relatively uncouth person when I was working. I still am, but certainly when I was working in the industry, I would go up to artists and I would just say, "Oh, that looks like shit." And I got better at it throughout the years. And it wasn't that I was ever trying to be mean. It was that I always had the hat on as the fan, as the player. And the player's not going to pull their punches. And since I was the guy making the final creative decisions, I felt that made sense. And that level of scrutiny and that level of criticism made sense, but there was a better way to couch it. Okay, whatever. Your mileage will vary, okay? But certainly if they want to express themselves, I think that's fine. People saying, "Oh, it's unprofessional." I'm like, well, I mean, you know, you put your art out there, you get to judge it, even if you're a developer. But the only reason you wouldn't is for political reasons. So if you want to say professional and political are synonymous, one could argue that's the case, and sure. But to say that, oh, because they're a developer, how dare they say something? You know, I've seen that narrative. Okay, but let's talk about the more important part about this. Let's talk about let's talk about what this is, in my mind, really about, because this is actually fascinating at a design level. That's what I care about when it comes to this, right? The fact that Elden Ring, this is a mod's tweet, scored a 97 Metacritic is proof that reviewers don't give a flaming poop about game interface. My life is a lie. Okay, and then this guy, Horizon Forbidden Blake, says they don't give a flaming poop about quest design either. Okay, well, we got to talk about this, because this is amazing to me. Because what does it really say? Now, again, we don't know the legs Elden Ring is going to have, but according to the numbers, they've already sold 6 million in 7 days. That's not too shabby. They've sold 2.5% more than Horizon. That's pretty, you know, again, it's an exclusive. Well, it's a cross-gen exclusive. That's not too bad. But let's assume it goes on to become a big fucking deal. And stay a big fucking deal, I should say. In some ways, doesn't this really point out what a lot of us, aka me, has been saying for a very long time, which is most games are bloated, and most games don't put their resources in the right place. And gamers, so, and again, I'm not saying if you love your big fancy cinematic experiences, but I want you to follow me on this for a minute. So you encounter a monster in Elden Ring. Now again, Elden Ring might be too minimalist for the mainstream. I can appreciate that. But there's a lesson to be learned between the minimalism of Elden Ring and the just sheer amount of noise on screen of Ubisoft and Horizon potentially. So take Elden Ring. You encounter a brand new monster in Elden Ring. Let's just take the dinosaur dogs. They're these fucking surreal as fuck animals that look like T-Rexes, but they have heads of rabid dogs. It's fucking weird. It's wonderful. And that's all you know. I mean, you can probably read some of the text and learn a little bit about their lore if you find it somewhere. I don't fucking know. I found this place in Elden Ring 2 days ago. I'm riding among the hills and I hear this beautiful chanting. And I'm like, what the fuck is that? Let me go figure out. Maybe it's some dude who wants to give me a quest. And I explore and I get down in the bushes and stuff because I see these harpies and I'm like, oh, it must be beyond the harpies. No, it was a mama harpy who was literally animated mouth singing this beautiful choir to her children. And I killed them, of course. But that said, I mean, they don't tell you much of anything. If you go into Horizon and you experience a new creature or even a creature you've already experienced, I think you can, like, it's R3 or something. You can send out this thing and it starts to give you, it's like, here's what it's weak against and here's how you can see its path and here's how you can do this. And it's the amount of time that someone spent to make that interface and to perfect it and to just make sure it was shippable. That's a long fucking time, right? Well, how needed was it, right? And then you get into the really interesting conversation. This you have to have seen. If you're not looking at your fucking cockadoodie screen, this is somebody who mocked up. This has been going around. This is an image of Elden Ring, but it's been Ubisoft-ified. So it's got, like, you know, enemies detected. It's got a radar. It's got a little compass at the top. There's question marks dotting the environment, telling you where you could go next. There's a thing over to the right that says, here's your main quest. Here's the next boss fight. Here's how many, you can say it's cringe. Crazed Assassin says this is 4chan cringe. It's accurate, though. It is absolutely accurate. It's accurate enough to prove its point. Whether it's like, no, Ubisoft never uses that particular font. Okay. But you understand the point they're making. Okay. And what I found fascinating is how used to this kind of hand-holding that we've gotten. Okay. And how much it's expected, to the point that the people who even make it feel that it's a weakness in the game if they don't put it in there. Okay. But what I will tell you, which is just amazing. And again, I will cop to the fact that the Elden Ring may be too minimal for most people. Maybe it is, maybe it won't, whatever. And I get it. Jerry A says focus is core to its gameplay. Well, it kind of is. And I'll talk about that in a second. But and what's interesting though about it is that when I play Elden Ring, okay, well, here's what let me ramble for a minute, because this is I didn't break this topic up in an outline, but there's a number of issues to hit on this, but it's fascinating to me at a design level. So I saw a handful of people talking about, oh, I got to get a notebook for Elden Ring, even to the point that people were starting to post, if you're not looking at your screen, this is like this guy on Reddit is like, my wife handmade me an Elden Ring notebook. And it's got like either leather or fake leather covering, and it's got the Elden Ring symbols stitched in. And it's just like a bunch of blank pages on the inside. I haven't needed to use a notebook for an adventure game since I was playing shit on the Apple IIe. Right? And so when I saw this, I was like, why the fuck am I going to need a notebook? What the fuck? And I still haven't written anything down. But what is so brilliant about Elden Ring when you have a comparison coming directly off Horizon, and it's not that Horizon is bad, Okay, it's that by any means, but it's that Horizon represents, I think, modern action adventure design, and whether or not Elden Ring is a throwback or Elden Ring is the future is hard for me to say right now. But I will tell you that the level of immersion in Elden Ring is off the fucking charts. Okay, and I don't mean that because a lot of people talk about HUD and user interface and say, oh, well, because it's distracting. When they say it like that, like it's like, I just need it to be cinematic, I don't think that matters. I think HUD elements can be very immersive. But when you play it like this, where it doesn't log your quests, where it doesn't tell you everything about anything, it really does put you in a very different mindset of how you play the game. And you feel more like you are living in this world. It is an absolute 180 from what you get all this hand-holding from most modern action-adventure games. And I've been there, man. I get it. One of the worst feelings of the world is to sit in a focus test and watch people get confused. But it is, I remember this on God of War. How many times, the one I remember plain as day was, you know, there's a difference between something being confusing and something being challenging. And so it seems that the video game companies, when they watch these playtests, they don't delineate. So I remember on God of War, we were watching these three guys play the section, if you remember, in Pandora's Temple, where Kratos is kind of balancing above the fire statue when he's going to get Pandora's box. And they just could not figure out where to go. And it was they would fall and die. They would keep getting hit by the same dead end. And it was excruciating. And I'm sitting there watching them on closed circuit TVs, talking to, I don't know, Tobin or Richard Fogey or somebody, and going, okay, well, we're going to have to redesign this whole fucking thing, this whole section, because it's not working. And afterwards, they rated the game, and they all gave it like a 9 or a 10 out of 10. And I said, I don't understand. We were watching you guys, and you guys were struggling like crazy. And they said, oh, it was awesome. Because when we figured it out, we felt great. And we felt it was our fault when we got lost, right? Well, modern game design really has removed that friction. But they've removed, and I get the heart is in the right place. We're spending all this money. We want people to be able to experience the game. I get that. But what they seem to be forgetting, and where I think these particular developers have it wrong, is experiencing the game is actually better when you remove a lot of that stuff if you are trying to make an immersive experience. If you want them to experience Alloy's adventure and not you as a player's adventure, okay, you're probably going to want more of it, but don't kid yourself. You're not worried about the player experiencing the game. You're worried about the player experiencing your story, and that's fine. A lot of people love that, but they're not the same thing. And I think this comparison has been absolutely, it really shows that. And I'm curious how that is going to affect design moving forward, because everybody says, oh, this is just Demon Souls in an open world. But it's Demon Souls or Bloodborne's philosophy of don't tell the user much. And we're going to take that, and putting that in an open world actually creates a sense of immersion that you don't get in Bloodborne, or I didn't, that you don't get in Demon Souls. So I like think about Dead Space that we're going to watch Friday when they do the developer stream, 10 o'clock Friday morning. Don't forget. Well, after playing this, I don't know if I want. I know Isaac has the thing in Dead Space where you hit the button and it kind of shows where to go next. I don't know if I want that. I mean, again, you could just not do it, but if you give it to me, I'm going to fucking do it. I don't know if I want my hand held as much now that I've played this, or is this the anomaly? I don't know. By the way, I'm not, there's this different, Everett says, imagine people getting mad over people's opinions. Let the quest designer criticize. I hope you're not taking what I'm saying. I started this off by saying, let them criticize. They have every right to criticize. And there might be political blowback since they're still working in the industry. There might not. I don't care. I never cared. But some people might. But of course they have they have the right. Augusto says, I work as an animator, and there's an unspoken rule that if you don't like someone's work, you can talk to the person privately or comment with friends, but never public as a form of respect for their work. Yeah, it's an unwritten rule, and it's, you can do it or not. If you do it, though, it'll probably hit you at a reputation level. But they didn't seem to mind, or if they did mind, let's put it this way. I imagine it must be frustrating to spend months look, I'm telling you guys, I've been there. Even though the game was a flop, we redid the Drawn to Death tutorial twice. We had a brilliant opening tutorial that was much better than what we shipped with, but we were obsessed, or I was obsessed with, I need to make sure everybody understands everything. And so it would take months for them to go in, and this button pops up here, and then the camera has to show you. I mean, it's a big fucking deal, right? But what I'm learning from playing Elden Ring is, like, if the game is good, you don't need that. Save it for, if you want to save it for a strategy guide. You don't need that. You need a little bit of it, maybe. Again, Elden might be too minimalistic, but you don't really need all that shit. But these guys, that's their job. Oh, you've got a quest. Let me bring this up, and let me show you the part of the map, and it lights up, and camera zooms in, it plays a sound. That is not cheap. All of those little things, that beautiful user interface when you use your focus and horizon and the wheel appears around the dragon or the dinosaur, and then you can D-pad left or right over the circular compass and pick which little piece of information you want about that enemy. That was probably designed multiple times, implemented ad nauseum, and ultimately, you're talking about hundreds of hours of work for things like that. I get that if you've been told by your companies and by games in general, as a player, that this is what a game is, I would be pissed too at a knee-jerk level. Maybe so pissed that I would want to shout from the ceiling, hey, we're the top of the food chain. Look at all this cool shit we did. And at least some gamers are saying, yeah, it's not really important. I'm sorry, but you've been sold a bill of goods. To some people it is. Some people it is, but certainly not to me. Your mileage will vary. Let me go to the chat. Does Elden Ring have quests? Yes, it absolutely has quests. If you go up to people and talk to them, they might say something like, oh, I ran into this girl and she said this. Will you help me find her? Will you help me? The last quest I did was I ran into this girl whose uncle or father was left behind at a castle south of the map. And she's like, oh my God, can you go check on him? I'm worried he wouldn't leave. And I went and he was there and I checked on him. And he says, yeah, I can't leave. I'm doing this. But he gave me something for my troubles. Absolutely, it has that. Mo says, Jaffe, that's hypocritical. I don't know what that means. I do, but what's hypocritical? Zaf says players don't like being taken out of their comfort zone. Yeah, I don't care. That's the developer's job is to be 5 years ahead of the player. Otherwise, you're just remaking shit. Look, I don't like Ubisoft, says SM Games, because they are repetitive. I just feel the criticism towards the UI and hand-holding is stupid. Gamers like hand-holding, even Souls gamers. I don't. How would you like that game to hold your hand? I like the fact, like, for example, right now, I have these, I forget what they're called, but I have these summons that I can summon. Good, Jaffe. I have, like, wolves and zombie skeleton warriors and jellyfish I can summon to help me fight. I know they can be leveled up. I saw today a headline from IGN or somebody saying, here's our guide to how you can level those things up. I don't want to click on those. I want to figure it out for myself because I know the game is built for that. CR says, Jaffe, open world design has been ran through too many focus groups. I agree. I think Elden was a grand vision of a creator. This is what happens when you keep the marketing and test groups out of a game. I don't think you keep them out of the game, but I think you give, in this case, I believe Miyazaki's also the head of the company. You give, like Sony did me, to be fair, you give the creator the power to make the creative decisions. So I'm sure marketing would love to focus test the fuck out of it and make changes because it makes the focus group run better. Then they fill out, would you buy it? Yeah, 9 out of 10. people buy what's exciting. No, focus group, you think they would have greenlit Among Us or Fortnite or any, I mean, come on. The stuff that really has heat is the stuff that somebody rolls some dice on. You got to balance it, though, of course. Where did that go? It says, Jaffe, you mentioned that you would, where did it go? You mentioned, says the Funky Monk, you would use the help button if given for Dead Space. It's the same reason Elden Ring don't want easy. Can adversely impact the catered experience. I'm not going to get into that right now on this particular stream. Let me just respond briefly. I appreciate the comment. I think those are different. I think you would be right if any time in the game you could change difficulty. I think once you start, you shouldn't be able to change it. And I'm not saying I think they should have an easy mode, but that's a different conversation though. Clint says, will you discuss the God of War show coming from Amazon? I did discuss the fact that I heard people talking about it, and that's all I really, that was my response to that. Cooper says, these devs seem salty, knowing they need to adjust. It's what separates winners and losers. Winners can pivot, losers are stuck in their ways and complain when confronted with change. Absolutely. And I think it's too early to tell. Like, if this falls off a cliff, and this is front-loaded, and this is like Scott Pilgrim Saves the World, where everybody thought Scott Pilgrim Saves the World and Snakes on a Plane were gonna be massive hits because the fans saw it at Comic-Con and they lost their shit. And the movie studios spent money on marketing and like, holy shit, we have a hit on our hands. And then they came out and they both flopped. Well, Elden Ring could easily fall off a cliff in the next couple of weeks. And it's like, yeah, most people return that game because it's way too fucking hard. Like I said, there's a lot of space between this image that somebody made to look like Ubisoft Elden Ring and Elden Ring, or Horizon and Elden Ring. I do think if you really want mainstream, this might be a touch too minimalist. But once you've experienced this level of minimalism in an open world and you've seen how immersive it can be, for me, it's going to be hard to go back to an open world game where it's like, here's the 20 fucking tchotchkes you've got to collect. Fuck off. Fuck off. Yeah, I agree. Bloodborne has terrible onboarding, but but the Elden Ring fixes a great amount of that. There's a tutorial that you can choose to go through that's embedded in the world. And lo and behold, that tutorial level is not just a tutorial level. There's a fucking trap in there, and there's a boss in there, and there's a lot of stuff in that graveyard section that when I first played, I just thought was a tutorial, and I'd never go back to it. Eternal says, I will say Elden Ring could do a better job of letting you know where in a quest chain you're at. Something as simple as graying out text when talking to an NPC. It could. I mean, like I said, I don't think it's perfect. But I think the more they add, the more risk they are of losing that sense of living in the space and actually being immersed in the space. Which is why it was exciting that the idea of notebooks. I haven't seen that since I was a kid. Top Gun says, without a map telling you where the quest is, you'll talk to everyone. I skip most NPCs in Tsushima because they offered me nothing of value. Yeah, and there are not a lot of people to talk to in this game, which is great too. It's not like, Skyrim where you go to every person just to make sure you don't miss anything and you gotta go through the whole fucking dialogue tree. It's like, dude, I don't care. Okay. Captain Crunch asks, developers do what their bosses and publisher tell them to, right? Yes, ultimately, but what their bosses and publisher tell them to do is varies by company. My bosses at Sony never told me what to design. They never told me what to put in the game. Every now and then when we had a decision that was causing turmoil, I would go to them or they would come to me and say, hey, we have to figure this out because the developer in Utah, for example, doesn't want to put this in the game. What are we going to do about it? But they would never come in and say, okay, I don't like your story about Calypso. Can you change that? That wasn't Sony. And as my understanding is it's still not Sony. Although I do imagine that marketing is more involved now, given the budgets, but I wouldn't know. I haven't been there in a long time. We're talking about two extremes, says Matt DeMarco, meaning the Ubisoft experience or the Horizon experience and the Elden Ring. Well, we are talking about two extremes. But again, you don't really know what you're missing until you have the extreme version, right? To have the extreme version that is Elden Ring, at least if you experience it like I did, is I wouldn't have gotten an experience that pure without the decisions they made to remove a lot of this stuff. Like I said, if I were making a game again, it was a game like this, I would probably not be as minimalist, but, you know, I'm glad they went where they went. Yeah, Jake, it doesn't have to be. Jake says not every game can be a game where the community figures out obtuse systems. It's cool with Elden Ring, though. I agree. I am not promoting a game. I'm not promoting a game has to be obtuse. I'm saying that even if you have a simple game, if the goal of the simple game is to send you on an adventure and let you feel like you're living the adventure, which I assume it is in Elden Ring, which I assume it is in Horizon, which I assume it is pretty much in any action-adventure game, immersion is one of the key things that you want to give the player. And all I'm saying is that what Elden Ring shows you is, within reason, even if your systems are not obtuse, it's almost like take off the training wheels. Most of your audience is going to buy these games. You've been parenting them like a toddler for too long. They're teenagers now. Leave them alone. Give them a little bit of guidance, but let them roam a little bit more is all I'm saying. Because when you do that, you get something that feels much more magical than where we're at now. That's my point. And it's an option, you can turn it off. Who's going to turn it off? If I'm in a fucking motorcycle race and I have nitro and I could turn it off because it's more fair, I'm not turning it off. No one's going to do that. It's not their job to be the goddamn game designer. I agree. Emmanuel says they did that. It's called Returnal. I agree. I think Returnal was too hard, but I like that it was very subtle and it didn't push your nose in it. I think it was just, for me, it was too difficult. All right, Brett Moore, good to see you, buddy. Thanks for hanging out. Jake says, I agree most games have too much guidance, but there's legitimate criticism that Elden Ring has too little. Yeah, I'm not, yeah, okay, I think I've said my piece. I'm not selling you on the fact it's perfect. I just think that it's a lot closer. Yeah, SM says Returnal was brutal. I loved it, but I'll never finish it. It was way too fucking hard for me. Okay, let me bring in... I was just about to bring in Kuristafa. He was waiting. Okay. Okay. Hang on a second. All right. Well, fellas... Fuck you, Masochista, you fuck. Fellas, that is Gabbin' Games then. There we go. That is Gabbin' Games for March 7th. I appreciate you spending some time with me. I appreciate you talking, debating, discussing. Super chats, the members, Rob the mod, helping us stay on the straight and narrow. Thank you, buddy. Fuck you, BB. Jaffe, you have no right to discuss Horizon Forbidden West since you haven't played the game enough. I have every right to discuss it because I bought it. I played an hour, 3 hours. I don't know how long I played. I don't hate it. I don't fucking hate it. I just don't like it as much as Elden Ring. I don't know what Rob the Mod. I don't know what that is, Rob the Mod. What are you showing me? I have no idea what that is. It looks, I guess everybody, it's a Rorschach test. To me, it looks like somebody's bending over and pissing. So, Jaffe says, Kia, what do you think if Disney allows Sony to create a Star Wars game, seeing they have a good relationship? I think it would be great. I would love to see one of Sony's first-party teams doing that. I did talk about Halo, Kenwall. This show will be going up tonight with timestamps. Okay. That's it, fellas. I will be back tomorrow, I believe. I know I'll be back Wednesday, 5 o'clock. I'll probably be back tomorrow with another Gabbin' Games. I might stream tonight some games. Meantime, thank you guys very, very much. Rocker Matt says, Jaffe Tracking says you should be receiving my package tomorrow. Okay, then maybe the package I got wasn't yours. Okay, good to know. Okay. I'll see you guys online. This will be time-stamped and uploaded later tonight or first thing tomorrow. Meantime, be well, be safe. Thank you for hanging out with me and spending some time with me. I'll see you guys very, very soon. Bye, everybody. Off, Doge. You don't like it? You don't like Elden Ring? Come on, Doge. Of all the people, of all the goddamn people I thought I could count on. And you don't show up. Hey, let me know when you and the AD want to have that chat, by the way. I'm around. All right. Bye, everybody.